Hey guys, it's Mary Ann, and I wanted to go over incorporating direct quotes. So let's begin. So today, hopefully you will learn how and why to incorporate direct quotes. So if you want to go to any source that's a little more specific, you are more than welcome to go to either one. And it provides basically the same information that I will be doing here. If you want a PowerPoint about paraphrases and summaries, in addition to direct quotes, feel free to grab my PowerPoint as well, the link is right there. Okay. So when you use direct quotes, now again, this PowerPoint is just about direct quotes. When do you use direct quotes? You want to capture the effect of the text. So say you want the information, and the author is just, the language they use, the sentence structure is sophisticated. It is just so enjoyable to read. I would certainly consider quoting that section of text. It does not have to be an entire full sentence. A lot of times those full sentences have some fluff that you really don't need. It shouldn't really honestly be a full sentence unless it's like a really profound statement, and that probably would be 40 words or more, and then you need to do a block quote. Maybe you need to quote some statistics. APA has very, very little direct quotes. MLA has more direct quotes than APA. So if you're using MLA, you probably are going to have more direct quotes than an APA. Blend. So if I were to, in paper, you're writing a paper, if I were to go through and highlight all of your direct quotes with one color of highlighter, all of your paraphrases another color, all of your personal commentary another color, and all of your summaries another color, think it would be a rainbow of colors. It would be a rainbow of colors. So there is a blend of all of those elements in a good paper. So just wanted to give you a heads up about that. How much of each color? That's up to you. Direct quotes are word for word. If you use, say you write a paper, and you have sources in the paper, you have direct quotes, you have paraphrases, all this stuff, and you come to some conclusions on your own. You have that personal commentary, and it was just so good. You were so genius at that point in time that you want to use your thoughts from that paper in another paper. At that point, you are a published writer. You are a source. You are an expert on that topic. You have to consider yourself another academic that you would be citing. So you have to you have to quote yourself from that paper, just like you would any other source. Otherwise, you are committing self-plagiarism. So just keep that in mind, please. Direct quotes are cited, meaning they have the parenthesis after the direct quote where you can actually refers to your reference list or your works cited list. So the words in that in-text citation refer to, they should be easily identifiable on the reference or works cited sheet. Again, you want meaningful, effective, maybe unique language when you quote. So there's 3 requirements: introduce your quotation, provide your quotation, and explain. Please do not just drop a quotation in your paper and call it a day. You need to make sure you introduce that direct quote. Who is saying it? Why should we listen to them? If you don't indicate their credibility as to who is saying this quote, they could be your next door neighbor. We don't care about your next door neighbor. Give us some solid proof, solid academia, people who we probably might want to listen to, and that only improves your credibility as a writer. Then provide your quotation, and then explain your quotation. What is the purpose of that quotation? Do not allow the reader to interpret it. You interpret it for the reader. This is your paper. This is your opportunity to share your voice. You don't want that writer or that source to just have all the say in your paper. So here's an opportunity for you to share your own ideas. So one of the 3 requirements are to introduce. Make sure you indicate who is the author. Why should we care about what this person says? What are they an authority on? Why should we listen to them? And why are they important? Any of those would be very, very helpful. Provide your quotation. And you can do one of 4 ways as to how to do this. Again, use only the most important elements of the sentence. Use only direct quotes that are profound, interesting language, perhaps maybe numbers and statistics. And then again, for direct quotes longer than 40 words, you're going to indent the quotation. And don't use quotation marks because the indentation takes the place of quotation marks. And then explain. Never end a paragraph with a quotation unless it's really, really profound. Instead, after you provide that quotation, take time to comment on that. Why is that profound? Why is that important? Why did I include this person's voice, this person's ideas? So again, introduce it, provide it, explain it. And then how you incorporate it, there's 4 different ways you can do this. So with a tag, and I'll go into this a little more in just a second. With a tag and a comma and an explanation. With a with the word that and no comma and an explanation. And you can incorporate bits and pieces, or you can use a colon. So the first method is with a tag. The tag is Stevens said. Stevens exclaimed. Stevens argued. Stevens believed. Stevens, I don't even know. There's 100 ways to say said. Look it up. And you can find so many other ways to say said. You figure it out. Stevens said. And then look at the little comma. So tag, comma. And then we have a quote. So that's a tag and a comma, and you explain afterwards. There's a comma after said, capital letter at the beginning of the quote. So there's that. Easy as pie. The second method is, instead of that comma, you use the word that. So Stephen said that. And if you notice, this is more like weaving that direct quote into your own commentary. So Stephen said that, there is no comma because that takes the place of comma, and then we lowercase that quote at the beginning of that quote. You should always, again, explain. Third method is sprinkle in bits and pieces. Stephen felt that Americans need to be reminded that all people, which is a direct quote, that's what Stephen said, should know that they are equal. And again, that's bits and pieces. And you don't have to, you are introducing it, but you're introducing it in your own commentary. So it's like being blended in. And the explanation is included in your commentary by leading it in and blending it. The fourth method is with a colon, and everybody seems to have a trouble with this. So when you have a colon, you want to introduce a quote that is an example of what you're talking about. So here is this sentence here. Stevens commented on the freedom of Americans. Please realize that sentence right there before the colon is a full sentence. You can put a period there and call it a day. What you're doing here is putting a colon, and then this quote is an example of Stevens commenting on the freedom of Americans. So this quote is an example of what you're talking about in the previous sentence, and it's headed off by a colon. So, and then also you're going to, here's another one with a colon. So anyways, the sentence before a quote is a full sentence, and yeah, this one's not quite the best example. I'm not sure where I got that from. So yeah, I don't really even know where I got that from, so sorry about that. Anyways, just keep in mind, we need a colon right here. And again, the sentence is an example of what you're talking about here. So brackets, if you change anything in the direct quote, you put, like, say you need to make sure the verbiage is consistent with what your personal commentary is. So maybe that direct quote verb has to be changed. So if you change anything in that direct quote, you put it in brackets, and that indicates to the reader that you're amending that direct quote just a tad. This is you're omitting some text. So there's some text in the quote that you use that you pulled out, and the 3 dots indicate that that's where the text was pulled out. SIC means that you noticed in the direct quote that there's a typo or a verb error or some grammar issue or a spelling error. So The SIC means that after the error, you're going to put brackets SIC to indicate that you realize that this is an error and it's not you, it's the direct quote. So that writer neglected to fix that error, you noticed it, and you put the SIC afterwards. So it's sort of like you're not taking responsibility for that. And then the period goes after the citation. So here's some examples. Stephen said that. So again, that is there, no comma there, lowercase there. Then we have Stevens believes, comma. And then we have the quote and then a capital A. Please note that there is no comma here or period here. The period is after the number, after the citation. People, so here's an example. This is a spelling error. And look at SIC, there we go. And then here's some text that must have been pulled out. So we have the SIC, which indicates you see the spelling error. You're not responsible for it. SIC indicates you're not responsible for it. Then you pulled some text out. You want to let the reader know that there was other text in there, but you didn't need it. And then again, period after the number. Stephen believes, comma, many people should. So this person added the word many in that direct quote. Again, period after the citation. And this one is the same as this one here, but look what happened. So even though I changed a word or added this word to that direct quote, you could have just put it outside. You changed this anyways, so you don't have to quote it because you can just lead into it by, it's not part of the direct quote. This word was never part of the direct quote, so you don't have to cite it, and this indicates that you changed it or added it, and then move on to people should feel free to do what they want. So hopefully this is helpful. Just think of quotes as guests in your house. You want to introduce who they are and what they're known for. Think of these people in your paper as your guests. You want to make them feel at home, like they belong and fit in just as well as your own words. And that means change the verb. So you want to make it consistent. Remember, if you were to remove the quotation marks, just pretend that you're not quoting. A sentence with a quote should read as smoothly and clearly as one written in your own words. So again, that verbiage has to be consistent with what you are already using. Oops. So provide at least 2 or 3 sentences of analysis for each piece of evidence to explain why it belongs in your essay. And then you're not going to restate the quote. You already stated the quote. Now you're going to reinterpret. You got to move the discussion along. So you're not just going to restate the quote. That's like a paraphrase. So it's like a direct quote, then a paraphrase. That's the same thing. We already have the direct quote. If it was embedded into your discussion properly, it would make sense. And then you move the discussion on to interpretation or explanation or the importance of why it's in there. So don't just paraphrase after the direct quote. That's kind of redundant. And here's a quiz. This one is you go through it on the internet. This one is an actual quiz. You can certainly use it, but I'll probably grade you on one if I assign it formally, but you're welcome to use it as well. And that's about it. Hope you guys have a great day.